Welcome back, everybody. It is Tuesday night, and that means another episode of Tech Talk Live. Today, we've got one that, gosh, I think might end up being my favorite episode that I've ever done because we have a wonderful guest, and we also have a really awesome product announcement that I think really is kind of changing, I don't know, changing the game, not a little bit, but a lot bit, as far as home theater is concerned. But anyway, to cut through all that, joining me tonight from Kaleidescape is Taylor Stansberry, the CEO of the company. So Taylor, welcome. How are you doing?
Good, thanks. Thanks very much for having me on.
Oh man, I'm excited. So I know a lot of people are out there and they're excited to hear about the new product, but we got to set the groundwork for this. We got to get everything ready so people kind of understand where this product is coming from. And I think a really good way to start that conversation is to start with you, right? Because you and the larger Kaleidescape team, without a doubt, have all been instrumental in the formative process of how we got from where you were before to where you are now. So maybe you could tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your tenure with Kaleidescapes, just so they know who you are.
Sure. So I've been a technology executive in Silicon Valley for many years for a variety of different companies like VMware, Ariba, Intuit, and I've also served on a number of boards, public and private, of technology companies. But my journey with Kaleidescape started a little over a decade ago when we were redoing our home theater, and my AV dealer at the time convinced me that I had to get a Kaleidescape.
Right.
And we were reluctant, but soon fell in love, and it spread. The system got larger, it spread across another household or two, and I became hooked.
That's awesome. And then, one thing led to another, and here you are helping, kind of guide the ship with Kaleidescape. So maybe you can talk a little bit through how things have changed with the product portfolio from the beginning of your tenure with the company to where we are now. So where did you kind of come into the mix at? What was the product line? Was it the S era, or was it before then, or where were things at when you kind of got in the picture?
So I got in the picture about 4 years ago, a little less than 4 years ago. And at the time we had the Terra server, the Strato C, and the Strato S. And they're, delightful products to watch movies with, because the fidelity of the video and the fidelity of the audio is just far beyond what you can get in any other way from any streaming device. So great products, but the Strato S was inexpensive, but it was very slow to load movies on. So our MO is that you load the movie onto your local Kaleidescape system and play from there, and that guarantees you the full fidelity. But the downloads were very slow on that device, and you couldn't download while you were playing. And that led to sort of a customer engagement drop-off with that product. So I discontinued that product and then introduced a smaller and less expensive version of our server, which was much more performant on downloads and downloading while playback and playing back to multiple rooms at the same time and so forth. So that was the first thing, was to introduce that smaller form factor server at a lower price point. And we fleshed out the server product line with a number of other capacities. And then we did a complete board rework of the server to make it even faster still, and introduced that about a year ago at CEDIA. And then in our most recent product, we've taken the player to the next level, which I'm sure you're going to ask about.
Oh yeah, we'll absolutely get there. And some big things that you didn't call out in particular, but things that really kind of moved the needle for me as the product has developed. You moved away from spinning disk to solid state, right? And anybody that remembers the kind of the evolution of PC computing when solid state drives came in, the performance improvement was astronomical, and you see the same kind of performance changes here. But I think people don't really understand the significance of the faster download speeds, because that really is a magical thing, right? Part of the goodness of this product is you can literally sit down to dinner and say, what do you guys want to watch tonight? It's movie night. And you can go through the Kaleidescape store and you can pick a movie and you can hit the button, right? Buy this thing, download it. And by the time you're done eating, you go downstairs or whatever, go to the theater, it's ready to rock and roll, right? I mean, that's unlike any other experience that you can have at, kind of that full fidelity video audio best of the best kind of world. It doesn't exist anywhere else. So that's really important for people that aren't really fully initiated into the ecosystem. Well, let's initiate them to the next level now, right? So my Alexa is going off. Said sorry, I don't know. I'm sure. So the new product is the Strato V, and this is a combo device, right? Meaning that it both plays and acts as a server. Is that correct?
Yes, it's an all-in-one device, so it can hold about 10 movies and then play them back.
Okay,
It
so
can also download pretty quick, so you get a movie down in about 10 minutes. So it's about a bag of popcorn and a drink to prepare while you're downloading your movie. And you can download your next movie while you're playing this one at full speed.
right on. And so I'm gonna, I should have queued this up, but I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna present out the Kaleidescape website because I want people to kind of see this as we go along here. So let me add this to the stage. Okay, there we go. So just for folks to be able to see what this thing looks like, it's a small unit, right? So you can actually, in a 1U rack, put two of these side by side. So if you wanted to, you could have two players, or you could do the player and a storage server if you ever wanted to add that. So the footprint on this is really small, and it has a very sleek design. I mean, if you look at this thing, it's super cool. So
yeah, it's very elegant and it feels good. It's thick aluminum and glass. It's really beautiful.
Right on. And then you can see that pictured here with the humongous servers that you guys have released, which is it's really cool. I mean, the new SSD versions are really big. Now this is an exploded version, and I want to talk through kind of what at least here is important to me, right? So the box, the design's very elegant, right? You've got your processor board, you got the cooling and the front panel, and then you've got that almost 1 terabyte of SSD storage built in, and that's the magic here, right? So one thing I want to point out to people is there's a stark difference with the release of this product of the accessibility of the Kaleidescape ecosystem from yesterday to today from a cost perspective. So literally yesterday, if you wanted to get in at the very entry level of Kaleidescape, you would need to buy a C player and the small storage server, and cost on that is like $9,000 or something MSRP.
Right. Yeah.
Today, if you want to get into the Kaleidescape ecosystem, 24 hours later, you can get in for $39.95 MSRP with this one unit. Now, storage gives you 10, 12 movies, something like that. However, I mean, you can cycle your movies, right? So if somebody wanted to, they could buy this unit, buy 100 movies, download the 10 or 15 that they want to watch at that moment, and then just cycle them through as they needed the content available. And they're in.
That's right. And it does some automatic housekeeping. Once you've watched a movie, it'll eventually let it go away if you have more movies queued up to download. So it makes it pretty easy.
Right on. It for me, it's just the price point on this really has brought this from what might have been an aspirational product for someone to an absolutely realistic product for what I would consider to be most anybody in the, like, probably starting at the mid, maybe even low end enthusiasts now, right? So for people that are serious about watching movies, this isn't a super duper expensive device anymore to get them into the best player that they can use to enjoy movies in their environment. So, it's absolutely a game changer for me. Now, I want to talk through some of the other items.
Can I add on to your last point for a moment?
Yeah, please do. Please do.
When you think about it, at $39.95, it's at a price point where if you buy a good TV, it's comparable. If you buy a good projector, it's way less than that. And if you buy a wall, oh my Lord, it's way less than that. So
Yes.
there's no way that at this point you should be buying a good TV projector or a wall without buying a Kaleidescape to feed it, because there's nothing else that can feed that kind of video fidelity.
Yeah, I agree. I was trying to do this math in my head earlier today. I was thinking through, if somebody were going to sit down and kind of price out like a whole system, and I'm not talking, a $200,000 or $250,000 system. I'm talking about something that you might find in most any enthusiast home, right? So
Sure.
just say they do like 100-inch television, and maybe
Yeah.
that's for a really good one is 5 or 6 grand now, right? And maybe they do like a top of the line kind of 16 channel Onkyo or something like that, and maybe that's $2,500. Then whatever their speakers are, the $4,000 price point for the best
You got it. That's exactly right.
source out there, it's no longer like, this thing's 4,000, 5,000, and then I need 10 grand. No, it's in the mix, and it becomes something that I think anybody that's serious about watching movies and even TV shows has to consider now, right? It's not oh, I just can't do that. Now it's like, okay, this this is doable, right? People buy, I compare it to folks that buy like a really nice F-150, or maybe they buy a motorcycle or a turbo for their car, or all these things, and all those things cost way more than the best that you can get for your home theater now, which is amazing.
Yeah, that
It's
is amazing.
absolutely amazing.
And the difference really is the image when you watch it on Kaleidescape versus on a streaming device. You just see things you'd never seen before. And when you listen, like in the soundtrack for the background noises, the dialogue, all of that is just so much cleaner because it's fully lossless audio. It's not highly compressed audio. What that means is that it's much more engaging, and the emotional impact of the movie is so much greater than it was before. So
Absolutely.
it just makes your movie watching experience entirely different.
Yeah, and there really is no comparison, at least for me, in the world of Kaleidescape versus streaming, right? I mean, this is, this is the full lossless experience as opposed to streaming. 4K disc is obviously much closer to this than it is to streaming. So if you've experienced 4K disc and the difference there, that's that jump plus more gets you to the Kaleidescape experience. Now, there are other items that are new for this player that I want to talk a little bit about as well. And one of those is the addition of Dolby Vision, right?
That's
So
right.
for me, whenever I talk to someone about Kaleidescape in the past, the two big pushbacks were like, well, it's kind of pricey. And then, well, my TV does Dolby Vision and this doesn't. And those were the two things that always came up. Well, obviously price has been addressed to a large extent. So what was the thinking about Dolby Vision? So what was kind of the item that pushed you over the edge of adding that into the hardware mix?
We've wanted Dolby Vision for years, but the previous hardware did not support it. So we needed to move to new hardware to support it, and that's what we did.
Right on. Yeah, and throughout the day today, as I've kind of watched the release go along and that kind of thing, one of the questions that came up was, well, will they ever software unlock my old player for Dolby Vision? And the answer there is no, because it
Yeah,
just
I'm
can't do
afraid
it,
we
right?
can't. No,
Right on.
that's a hardware constraint. And if we could have solved that with software, we would have done so years ago.
Right on. Now, we're gonna go dig into this product now for the next, I don't know, 20 minutes or so and talk about different aspects. So if anyone out there has questions, feel free to drop those into the chat and I'll get them in. I've got a whole bunch lined up that I want to go through. And we'll start kicking those off now. So another item that's new for this is the UI, right? So the UI, there's a special version for the V. Could you talk a little bit about that? And then, what happens when you marry the V to a larger pre-implemented system, right? If somebody's got a Terra server and some C players or whatever, and you add this in, what happens then? So, and what's the reasoning behind the different UI for the purely V installations?
So the Kaleidescape user experience overall is iconic. And I think the view that people are most used to is the covers view that has all the shuffling covers. As soon as you focus on a new movie, it will reorganize all the covers and animate that to bring you up titles that are in some way related to the one you've selected. It's a great way to help you find movies that are like the movie you just watched and may want to watch again as well. So, and there are a couple of other views as well, but some of those views don't work very well when you don't have a large collection of movies.
Right.
So if you're only going to have, let's say, 10 movies on the device, then some of those views didn't really feel right. And so what we did is we took the collections view and modernized it and made it so that it was rows of title cards. So it's a very simple and very graphical view. And that is the primary and only view that you see when you're using the device standalone. Now you marry it to a server where you have the capacity to store a bunch more movies, then you get all of the rest of the richness of the Kaleidescape UI gets turned on.
Right on. That makes a lot of sense. So that leads, I think, to a next batch of questions. So for folks that have a pre-existing environment, they're able to purchase a V, and maybe they have a television that they want to enjoy Dolby Vision on, and that will sync right into the system, right? So they can marry that up, and that becomes another player in the ecosystem. Is that right?
Yes, you can have Terras and Cs and Vs and mix them all together. Yes.
Okay. And then for the older equipment out there, the Strato S's and those kinds of things, do those work together with the V now as well?
They do, although the S's are performance limited. So
Right.
the you can have one player play from a Strato S, whereas with our servers you can have 5 players at least, and up to 25 depending on which server.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And then I guess the last question of working together is, what if you just buy two Vs? What can you do anything with two Vs together?
Sure. Now you will have an account in our movie store. One thing that's really important to know with Kaleidescape is that when you buy a license to a title, you own that for your lifetime.
Right.
You don't have the problem of that title being sold away to another platform, because even if it is sold away to another platform, you have a lifetime license to that title.
Right. So this is, and I talked to a lot of people about this, and they're like, well, like on Netflix, the TV shows come and go, and this is not that kind of situation, right?
If you've purchased it, you own it.
Right on.
And so now what that means now is that if you own that title, you have the ability to download it to up to 5 Kaleidescape systems.
Right.
And your 2 Vs in this scenario, even if they're sitting in the same household, would count as 2 of those 5 systems. So you
Gotcha.
could then download movies that you own in your library to those two different Vs.
Great. Okay. Now I want to take a moment here and pause, and I want to say hi to some of the folks that are out in the audience. So, everybody, I haven't been ignoring you. I see you out there. Master Lessons is with us here. Good to see you. Salt Life is with us, and he says, "Hey Taylor, glad you're here to talk Kaleidescape." And then he wants to know, the future of storage servers and that kind of stuff. So maybe we can get into that in a little bit. So I'm gonna dig through all of these and pull out some of these questions. So everybody out there, if you have questions, make sure you're getting them into the notes. So as Taylor is answering some of these, I'm gonna start going through these to pick these out. So one question a lot of people have that came up a lot today, because I think people that haven't looked at the solution today are now saying, man, maybe this is the one for me.
That's right.
How difficult is this for the typical home theater enthusiast to implement this into their system? Compare it maybe to adding a disc player. How much more difficult or not is it to bring this in?
So it's no more difficult than, say, an Apple TV to set up and install. It's not tricky. So that means that a lot of people are going to be able to just buy one and install it themselves. Some people will want to integrate it into a larger system with control systems and so forth. As soon as you get into doing that, then you probably need a dealer to help you.
Right on. And so, I want to refer back to my experience. So I implemented the Strato S into my environment a while ago, and it was a little more challenging than adding a disc player, but that's because of the rich set of features that it brings to the table. And I've got a constant image height, anamorphic lens set up, right? And so for folks that kind of get into those esoteric kind of setups, if they're not super technical, maybe they could use some help on the bigger full systems. But for this, my expectation is that this thing is going to be super straightforward. All right, so we got GJ Hunter, and he says he's very excited about the new product. Halo, been looking forward to a player with these features. So thanks for jumping in, GJ. And let's see. Mia Francis is here. I'm an old Strato all-in-one owner, and I love this new option. I'm in the exact same place, and I will have one of these in my living room for a brand new 100-inch TV that'll be coming here pretty soon that does Dolby Vision. So I'm super excited for that. So Aaron Ham is with us, so welcome. And he was asking about the interface that we've covered. So here's another question, and I know this is a big coding question, and there's probably not an answer to this one yet, but one question that is commonly asked is, for people who have movies that they own that aren't on their system, you can see that in the app, right? You can go and see all of your movies, but they don't show up in the UI. So for the V player, that will hold true, correct? So if you own, say, 100 movies, on the player itself, you'll see the 10 you have downloaded, and to see the rest, you'll have that. You had to go look at the app for that, correct?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So you can see them on your phone, you can see them in your web browser, but not on screen.
Right on. Is there ever a future state where there might be a tab in the UI to see owned but not downloaded? I've been asked that at least 50 times today. So I think that's a good question.
Yeah, we've heard it a little more than 50 times.
I bet you hear it all the time.
So I'm not going to talk about future product, but we're listening.
So you guys have noted the feature request. Okay. Another one that I got today was any strategy behind the selection of a 1 gig interface versus a 2.5 gig interface for this unit? Was that cost consideration or design philosophy? Any thoughts around that one? That one comes from Michael Lawless. So Michael, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Yeah, I think the thing that is probably driving that question is that our solid state servers have a 2.5 gig interface. And for those, it actually does allow pretty fast downloads, so that you can get movies down in about 4 minutes. And we did think that for this device, I mean, we were trying to hit a price point, as you know, so some trade-offs have to happen, like how much storage and how much this and how much that. And so we did decide to cap it at 1 gigabit, because that gets you a movie down in about 10 minutes, which should be, fast enough for most people. So, and then if you want to get it even faster, then buy one of our solid state servers and mate it up, and you'll get even faster.
Right on. Awesome. Very, very cool. This one I think is a little bit out of scope for the conversation tonight, but I think it's cool because, Aaron he's thinking about, down the line kind of things for additional features, right? And Kaleidescape can handle different aspect ratios for your screens, but his suggestion is maybe one day you guys figure out how to do some auto aspect ratio kind of change stuff and add that in, much like maybe like a Mad VR video processor can kind of do that kind of thing. So there's another one to add to the list of down the line kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's a request we hear a fair amount. Not as much as the show me my whole library on screen one, but we do hear it. And so, but I think that at this point is probably more the domain of the companies like Mad VR and Lumagen.
Yep, I think so. Now, I want to say a special welcome to Richard. Richard is a channel royalty for me. He is one of my patrons. So I always love to see him in the crowd. And he asks a question that very quickly was on the tip of my tongue as well. So a feature that was added not too long ago for those that aren't, in the ecosystem is the disc to digital tool. And this is crazy cool, right? Because it allows you to plug a external player, disc player, into your Strato or what Terra or whatever you happen to have, and you can put your disc in, and it'll identify that, hey, you own this, and then you're able to buy the digital copy of that movie for Kaleidescape at a often much lower price. I noticed that this V has that same USB port on the back. Does the V have disc to digital functionality with an external drive?
I'm so glad you asked this question. Yes, it does.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. This just gets better.
Yeah, it's a super important feature. I mean, the idea is that, hey, if you already own a big library of stuff on disk, then you don't want to pay for the thing entirely all over again at 100% price. And so many of the studios have afforded us a discount for people who already own a title on disk if they can verify that they actually do have it in their possession. And so the idea is you plug a reader into the back, into the USB, insert the drive, insert the disk. It'll recognize the disc, and then it will give you the best pricing we're able to get from the studio for that title.
That's outstanding. And that's killer for me, right? Because I had a bunch of what I consider to be my classic favorites, right? Things that I knew that I'd watch again. And I'm not a big movie rewatcher. I'm not, right? I'll watch one thing and then it's kind of out the window. But
and you already bought it on VHS, and you already bought it on DVD, and you already bought it on Blu-ray, and it's like, okay, yeah,
absolutely. And this allowed me just to get that movie and some, and this is for DVDs, right? So I never, some of them I had not upgraded to 4K disc. So for me, it was really awesome to be able to get this in a higher quality at a really, really great price point, right? So having that available here, for those that are concerned about, okay, I've got a billion discs and I don't want to get into another ecosystem. There are two pieces to that puzzle for me. One, just because you buy a V or any of the other Kaleidescape equipment doesn't mean that you have to convert everything over to Kaleidescape. You still have your player, you still have your disc, you can still watch them anytime you want to, right? But for those that you do want to convert over, there's a cost-effective pathway to get there, right? So you're not buying everything over again, which is really, really good. I want to say hi to Double A. He has joined. He's also been a longtime watcher of the channel. Sorry for joining late. No worries. I'm glad to have you here. I'm so happy to have you in the audience. If you have any questions, let us go. And he says, I have so many old DVDs. Yeah. Now, Mr. Sultan here, I think he's new to the channel. Welcome. But he's like, okay, this isn't enough to push me over the edge. Are you going to bundle some movie credits with the like the Strato C had in June? He needs more. Any chance for that maybe one day?
Well, I'm not going to again talk about future sales promotions. I will say that we do have some sales promotions in effect at the moment, which do include buying a Strato V with a server, or adding a Strato V to a pre-existing system with a server.
Okay, right on.
If you're just buying the Strato V, at this point, we don't have any incentive. Right, and it would be really weird to have an incentive on a new product we just introduced.
I agree. I was going to say that might be like, next year or something when you're like, okay, let's figure out what the next thing is. So one question that came across is now, so this has a terabyte of internal storage.
Yeah.
And well, almost. When you add this to say a pre-existing Terra server environment, is that 1 terabyte still available to the entire pool, or does that get turned off for the bigger?
No, it gets turned off if you made it to one of our larger servers.
Okay, so just something to keep in mind for everybody out there, because that might be a gotcha for someone. So just be cognizant of that one. See, Michael Lawless is with us, and he says
there was a reason for that. It was it greatly simplified the engineering. 1 and 2. If you make this be a server to other things, now all of a sudden you're imposing on it the ability to play back at the same rate that your other servers can, or else you're constraining the number of players you can have doing playbacks in your system. So
okay, so there is reason to the rhyme there.
The chip in the server is meant to serve. The chip in the player is meant to play. It will not serve. It wouldn't have been able to serve as many players as the server chip would be able to do. That's the underlying.
That makes sense. Okay, yeah, thank you for that. That
makes not so much storage, a sub-terabyte amount. It's not so much storage. You're going to weep very much if you forgo it in order to have the bigger server, which is going to give you a hell of a lot more anyway.
Yeah, and they are Whoppers now, which is pretty cool. Michael Lawless says Digital was what finally got him to buy in. Great feature.
Great.
Yeah. Let's see. All right, now let me go back over to, this is another one that came up today. So on this player, you get HDR10, you get Dolby Vision, but no HDR10 Plus.
That's
so
correct.
that I've heard that a bunch of times. Any reasoning behind that one? Is it just not as popular, or was it a hardware constraint, or
It's just not as popular.
Okay, so this really was a demand item, and people were like, "I got to have the Dolby Vision, but maybe not so much on the HDR10 Plus."
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Michael Lawless says, make sure to use a friend referral and you each get $100. He'll be happy to give you his code. So yeah, if you need Michael's code, make sure to reach out. But if you really want to use a code, use Giles McCoy, because, you know,
I was imagining you might say that.
Daddy needs some new movies. So if you guys are out there buying, you know, you feel free. I'll put it down I'll put links and notes and all kinds of stuff down there. Feel free to use any of those that you want to. I would not be sad if you used any of my affiliate stuff. All right, I'm trying to find any of my last super big questions here. Oh, okay. Another big item that we haven't touched on yet is the onboard decoding for 2-channel output over optical and coax. So if you could talk a little bit about that, and then what the use case for that is.
Yeah, it's actually 2-channel and multi-channel. So
okay, right on.
Yeah. So if you have a modern processor, it's going to have lossless decode of True HD, DTSMA, and the lossless forms of Atmos and so forth. However, if you have an older processor, it probably only processes Dolby Digital.
Okay. Yep.
Or, bare DTS, which are much smaller. It's a 10 times smaller bit stream than what you get with the big lossless like True HD and DTS master audio. So so if you have an older processor, or if you have just a 2-channel setup with a DAC, then you're also going to be getting the interpreting from the lossy core of the old audio standards. What this will do is that every HD and 4K movie in our library has full lossless audio from the studio masters, and the player will decode that in the event that you don't have a processor that can decode it.
Nice.
So this becomes useful for the people who have like a 2-channel setup, or a setup with an older processor. And I have a couple of old Meridian processors, for example. They're great, but they don't do the modern lossless decoding. These will make those things sound so much better.
That's super cool. So you're bringing life to older equipment with this. I like it. I like it a lot. So Elvin, yes sir, has joined. So thank you so much. And he's calling a little bit back to the disc to digital, right? So he's going to get one, and he wants to know how he deals with his old Blu-rays. So I actually made a video where I walk everyone through this. So if you have any questions, you can go to my channel on YouTube, where you're at now, right? And just search for Kaleidescape disc to digital, and it'll show you the whole process of taking an external drive, plugging it in, and it's really super easy. You literally plug it in, and then it'll open up. You put the disc in, you close it, and then it does it all, right? And then the disc comes out. It's really easy. I mean, there's no struggle or challenge there at all. And then
all you need is a USB disc reader, and we specify a handful of them that we've tested and work that you can get from Amazon. Plug it in, and a couple minutes per disc will recognize them, and then you get the discounted pricing.
Right on. Unix super user says this really brings in a whole new customer base. I think that was probably part of the idea, right? And he or she is absolutely right. I was, we were actually talking about this a little bit beforehand, right? And I think of the home theater market kind of as a pyramid, right? And you have customer bases, and maybe as the price of equipment goes up, the customer base gets smaller, like a pyramid. And Kaleidescape was, maybe in this part of the pyramid, but with this price point, it's going to bring more of that pyramid in. So you know, we're going to get a lot more Kaleidescape brothers and sisters out there to join the family. And I'm super excited for that, right? Because I have a lot of passion for this product, because I have a lot of passion for home theater and experiencing it as best I can. And this gives me the best experience. I mean, bar none. And I've done it all, right? I've built my own Plex servers, and Plex is great, right? I've had just about every disc player that you can ever imagine. You know, I've had multiple different NAS that I've built and supported for myself, and Dune and Zapedi and Zadoo and everything else, right? And those are all great, and they all have their spot and they all have their market. But for me, there's been no other product that has made watching a movie as enjoyable as Kaleidescape.
Indeed,
right?
indeed.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Oh, we've got some Kaleidescape. I don't know if royalty is the right word, but Josh Goldman of the Kaleidescape Owners Forum, a bunch of really good Kaleidescape fans over there, and CEC. This is a good one. So, any plans ever for kind of CEC integration with any of the devices? And I think this is a good question, because I could see a lot of people plugging this into their television directly, right, without anything else. And it would be kind of cool to have your TV's remote control kind of moving around. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so certainly a request that we've heard a great deal and are listening, but I'm not going to talk about future product.
Right on. So it's noted. People want it, and maybe one day. Okay, right on. Cool. All right. Now I don't want to drag this one out too long tonight. So I want to go ahead and close out with just a couple of more questions. And maybe comments. This product checks all my boxes to enter the Kaleidescape ecosystem.
That's great.
Except for the Ethernet speed. Thank you so much for it. So thank you, GJ Hunter. That's really cool. So I guess if somebody wants to buy one of these things, where do they get it? So how can they get into the ecosystem?
Yeah, great question. So if you go to our website, then there's a dealer locator on there. So
Okay.
put in your zip and it'll find all the dealers near you and sort them by, you know, how much Kaleidescape they've sold in the past, and how experienced they are, and whether they have a demo system in-house and all that. So you can see all that graphically. We also have a handful of retail partners. So Audio Advice is one, Best Buy is another. So let's see, Epic Systems is another. They're also on our website, and you can click through to their stores, so you can buy Kaleidescape directly from them.
Right. Awesome. Very, very cool. And a special thanks to Brian here. He bought one today. That's very cool.
Thank you.
Just remember, use the code Giles McCoy when you set it up, so you can get some free movies. That's what I can't do. All right, folks, we're going to go ahead and pin this one up for the night. Everybody out there that joined, thank you so much for joining us tonight. You know, your time is valuable, and for you to come on and spend it with us is valuable to us. And you know, we're honored that you would take time out of your day to join me and Taylor to talk about this great new product. And Taylor, for yourself, thank you for your time.
Thank you. This is a pleasure.
You know, it's really wonderful for me to have this access and be able to bring this access to everybody else, so we can talk about how these products kind of grow up and give people really that direct line into the company, right? I think that's so valuable. All right. And with that, everybody out there, remember, like, subscribe, ring the bell, do all those things, and I'll see you guys in the next video.